currently in the hospital. Been here since about 2 o'clock yesterday. We're waiting to find out something.
Hey guys, it's Jessica, and today I'm going to be sharing a little pregnancy update and little scare that we had the other day. So I'm currently 32 weeks pregnant with our second child and our first little girl. With my first child, I had a home birth and I had a wonderful experience and a labor that lasted 4 hours from my first contraction to my last contraction. If you're interested in my last birth story, I have a full video on my channel about that if you want to check that out after this video. But anyways, so just a quick recap, I guess, of this pregnancy. Everything's been going along really good in this pregnancy and been feeling really good and all that. So this whole experience started on March 27th. It was a Monday. I had a pretty regular active day of doing day-to-day stuff around the house and everything. My husband came home from work and we've been remodeling a camper because we're gonna be renting it out. Someone's gonna be living in it. So we're trying to get it renovated and ready for the person. So we went up there after my husband got home from work and started just doing some stuff around there. I helped him carry in some flooring and helped him put down some jacks on the camper. Nothing crazy, nothing that, you know, wasn't in any pain or anything. Nothing crazy happened. When we got back home, it was probably about 8 o'clock. I went to use the bathroom and I discovered I had been bleeding a little bit. Not a whole lot, but definitely a concern being 31 weeks pregnant. So I called my midwife immediately and asked her if she thought we should go to the hospital, what she thought we should do. She said we could wait and see if I have any more bleeding or if I start developing any like contractions or cramps or anything. But she really recommended just going ahead and going to the hospital and getting checked out just to make sure that there wasn't anything seriously wrong. The one concern that she had was a placental abruption, which is where the placenta starts to detach from, I guess, like the cervix or the womb. And that can be a really dangerous situation. So that was one thing she was really concerned about. She said, you know, you could come in here and I could, you know, check the baby, make sure that the heart rates and everything's fine, but that's about all I could do. She said you're better off going to the hospital. They can do an ultrasound and check to see if there's any pooling of blood around the placenta or anything like that. So just to be safe, we went ahead and headed to one of the nearer hospitals. The one that she recommended is about 45 minutes away. My husband took our son to grandma's house to spend the night and then came back, picked me up, and we started to the hospital. I wasn't in any pain, no cramping, no contractions or anything like that. I wasn't too concerned, like I wasn't majorly concerned, but I just wanted to be on the safe side. So my midwife had called ahead to the hospital, sent them my information, let them know what was going on. Someone was there waiting for me, knew exactly what was going on, took me back to examination room or whatever. They did a urine sample, monitored the baby's heart rate for about an hour, and that was it. Doctor never came and checked on me or anything. Because the bleeding wasn't very much and had stopped, they just said it was kind of something that was normal, that could happen from regular activity. They weren't real concerned about it, so they sent me home about an hour after being hooked up and everything. The baby looked fine. We got home, it was about midnight, so didn't get a whole lot of sleep that night. But anyways, everything looked fine. Contacted my midwife in the morning, let her know everything that went on. So she was kind of recommending that I go ahead and get like scheduled to get an ultrasound done that day on Tuesday just to make sure everything was okay. I wasn't having any other issues. I had no more bleeding or anything, so I was like, well, let's just wait and see, you know, because I wasn't too concerned about it. The doctor at the hospital didn't seem concerned about it, so I was like, let's just wait and see what happens. Later that day on Tuesday, about 1 o'clock, I had been really resting. I hadn't been doing much. I really had been trying to sit around and rest, just really take it easy, just because it was a little scary. I didn't want to do anything that would cause me to bleed again or anything. So my mom stopped in and talked to her for a while, tell her everything about the hospital, my first hospital visit and everything. As she was leaving, I went out with my son, go check on the chickens and all that. And I needed to go to the restroom, so I shouldn't have done that. But anyways, I quickly just come in and I left my son out there just because dragging him back in the house sometimes is a pain because he loves being outside. Quickly came in, went to the restroom, and I found that I was I had quite a bit of blood. Suddenly, after I had finished urinating, I just started kind of gushing blood. It took me a second to like my bearings to myself and figure out like what was happening. I didn't know if my water was breaking or what, but it was just like this just stream of blood. So I grabbed my phone and I called my mom, which had just left, and I told her, I'm bleeding, I need you to come back. I call, my husband, let him know what's going on. And so then I immediately called my midwife, and she said, you need to get in the car, right now, go to the hospital or call an ambulance, whatever you think's safer for you. Just because we're so far out here, I didn't want to wait for an ambulance. So my mom got here, my son loaded up in the car, and we headed to the nearest hospital. We met up with my husband, which was working. Thankfully, he was kind of on the route to the hospital. During that time, I called my midwife to see if she thought maybe I should call an ambulance, if they would really be able to do anything for me. But we decided to just go ahead and just drive to the hospital, as meeting up with a ambulance wouldn't, might not be worth the time, and then they really wouldn't be able to probably do much for me. My husband just drove as fast as he could, and it was really scary. Last thing I saw, I was just bleeding out. So that was really crazy. The hospital my midwife recommended going to was UT Medical Center, which was about an hour away. He drove as fast as he could. There was a cop pulled alongside the road on the way, so he pulled in there and to ask if he could maybe escort us to the hospital, but unfortunately he couldn't leave the county. So he said, just put your flashers on, and he said, I'll call ahead to the next 2 counties to let them know that you're coming through. We got to UT Medical Center and went to labor and delivery, which is what my midwife had recommended, and she had already called in and sent them over my information. So then they took me into triage and began to check me out. I had stopped bleeding, but I had lost a decent amount of blood. I'm not exactly sure how much. So they did a exam and they checked to see if I was dilated. They hooked me up to a belly monitor, check baby's heart rate, and see if I was having contractions. They took my vitals and everything. I wasn't dilated. So then a doctor came in and started talking about, possibly what it could be. And they were concerned about a placental abruption, just because I had sudden severe bleeding like that. So they were pretty concerned that it was a placental abruption. So they were going to do some more tests and check things out before they wanted to move forward into prepping me for an emergency C-section, if that's what it came to. So they said, if it is a placental eruption, we're going to want to, get you on some steroids to help the baby's lungs get really strong. If we could at least keep her in there for a couple more days. Also give me magnesium to help with neurological development for the baby. So anyways, it was looking kind of scary there. So they did an ultrasound. They said the placenta looked good. They didn't see really any blood pulling up around or anything, but obviously with the ultrasound, there's, limitations to really how much they can see. They didn't see anything obviously pointing towards an abruption, and I wasn't having any contractions or anything, or pain or cramping or anything, so that was good. But we weren't sure why I was bleeding. They did all that. They started hooking me up, getting me ready to hook up to IVs. So it kind of calmed down a little bit after that. I went and used the restroom, and the same thing happened. I just started gushing blood again. Got me back on the bed, and I was still continuing to bleed quite a bit. And at that point, the doctors were really concerned just because I was losing a lot of blood really quickly. So it was really a whirlwind. There was a lot of activity going on. A lot of nurses and doctors were coming in, and they were like, okay, it does, look like you're having like a placental abruption. So we need to move forward with prepping you in whatever way we can. So I got a steroid shot. They gave me a second IV of magnesium. The nurse that was doing all that, she's like, you're gonna feel really crummy. It's gonna make you feel crummy, and you're gonna have some hot flashes. And so I'm like, okay. Let me tell you, the magnesium stuff is no joke. It was awful because it just started hitting me, and I was on fire. Like, it wasn't a hot flash. I've had hot flashes before, but I was laying on coal fire. It was awful. So that's all hitting me. Magnesium is supposed to be a muscle relaxer too, so they didn't want me getting up anymore. They were gonna put a catheter in. And then all during this time, there's a nurse that's asking me questions, and then it was just craziness. I had some someone putting like these little cuff things on my legs that were supposed to help with blood clotting or whatever. So there was just a lot of activity going on at the time. So the one nurse that was putting the catheter in, she started, and then she turned to the other nurse and she's like, come look at this. So then like this whole flurry of activity began, and they started calling in other doctors and stuff, and apparently I began bleeding again really heavily. They were applying pressure, and of course I'm being hit by magnesium, so I'm like feel awful, I'm on fire, and all this craziness is going on. This one nurse is like asking me all these questions, and she's like, well, have you thought about birth control methods you'd like to use after this child? Are you kidding me right now? Like, I'm dying. Like, I just want to live right now, and you're asking me about birth control? Like, and then the anesthesiologist came in and starts asking a bunch of questions, and I'm like, anyways, it was crazy. In all of that, they discovered that I had a small laceration underneath my urethra. Apparently that's where all the blood was coming from. Whenever they were putting the catheter in, it exposed that area and began to bleed. Later, that nurse, when she was briefing the night nurse, told her that when she was putting the catheter in, it just started squirting blood out at her. So that was pretty crazy. The doctors said they really hadn't seen anything like that from someone who's not had like trauma, like been in a car wreck or something. Really strange. We have no idea how I got like a cut, and then it just bled so heavily, and I don't know why it started and stopped like it did, but it was really scary. But anyways, the doctors weren't ruling out a placental abruption. They just, they really wanted to make sure there wasn't anything more serious. They weren't for sure that it was just that little laceration that was causing all of this bleeding. So anyways, they kept me overnight. They had me in triage for a little bit, and then they moved me to labor and delivery room, and I was there all night. They checked on me every hour. I got no sleep that night, so that was fun. I also wasn't allowed to eat or drink, just in case I had to have an emergency surgery. As far as like treatments or anything, they really didn't discuss a whole lot on moving forward on what was going to happen with that. The next day, I guess this is going into Wednesday, the doctor was supposed to come in early that morning and check me out and decide what the plan of action was moving forward, but they had an emergency in the OR, so it ended up being until about 1 o'clock that the doctor finally made it in. And they did an exam. They really were leaning towards that it was the laceration. As far as treatment, they said it would heal up really quickly and I shouldn't have any problems with it. But they wanted to keep me for another like 24 or 48 hours. I was told so many different things from so many different, because there were so many different doctors and so many different nurses, and it was just really hard to keep track of what all was actually happening, because one lady told me, 24 hours, another person said 48 hours, one person said I could be out by 3, and someone else said like in 2 days, and it was a lot. So anyways, from there, they scheduled me for an anatomy ultrasound. So I had that done. Everything looked fine. Didn't see any issues with placenta or anything. And then they moved me into, I'm not exactly sure what it was. It wasn't labor and delivery, but it was a place for pregnant women that was having issues. That's what the nurse told me. So I'm not sure exactly what that place was called. So anyways, and then I was there overnight Wednesday night, and I was hoping to be released Thursday morning, but they were like, oh, we'd like to keep you for another 24 hours. And I was like, I don't want to stay here for another 24 hours. So then Thursday morning, the doctors came and checked on me. They said I should be good to go home, be on pelvic rest for probably the remainder of the pregnancy. So I did ask them, is this going to be an issue for having a natural birth? They didn't seem concerned about that. They said, you might want to come in and just get checked out about at 36 weeks. Just make sure you're completely healed, but you should be good to go for a natural birth. So that was my first hospital experience. Very dramatic, crazy, and scary. The hospital staff and nurses were all wonderful. They were all really sweet and kind. The doctors were great. Moving forward, we are still hoping to have a natural home birth. We'll have to talk with my midwife about everything, work everything out, see what she thinks. If she doesn't feel like it's safe, then I'll probably have like a hospital birth and she can come in as a doula, but we'll just have to see how everything goes. And had a lot of prayers sent up for me and for us, and my family definitely helped so much with my son, taking care of him during this time. And anyways, I am home now and resting and trying to recoup my strength. Definitely wears you out. I know that those steroids and stuff jacked me up. So anyways, I've been really tired since being home, have really low energy, but hopefully it will gradually increase. That is what's been going on Definitely puts a damper on regular day-to-day life and some projects that I really needed to get done before this baby comes. It's all okay. I'm so glad that baby and I are well and healthy, and now I just have to get better and get strong and get ready to have this baby. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I will see you guys in a later video. I don't know when that will be. I don't know if I'm gonna get any projects done before this baby arrives, but if not, that is okay. I would rather be healthy and have a healthy baby. But yeah, anyways, see you guys later.